Turn my mic up. Take there. Yeah. On the road to the riches. Life takes a toll like bridges. Good friends become foes and snitches. Better watch who knows in your business.
All right, Hustle fam, we are back with another amazing episode. Yo, I am extremely excited today, man. Listen, I was randomly on vacation in sunny Florida, and guess who I ran into? My brother Brock Phillips.
Oh yeah, what's going on, man?
Hey man, listen, bro. You know we've been trying to connect for a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little minute.
And unfortunately, we both have different things going on. We haven't been able to connect, but God made this happen, man.
Right.
We were the same place, same time. We put it together. Bro, it's so good to finally get you on Truck and Hustle, man.
I appreciate the opportunity, man. Absolutely.
For sure. So for y'all who don't know my brother Brock, who don't follow Brock on social media, don't know about the Interstate Hustlers, see the chain, don't know about Phillips Transportation, don't know about this young brother, 28 years old. You've been in business for how long?
Going on 6 years.
Going on 6 years. So that means that you started your trucking company when you were 22.
Yep.
22 years old.
Been in trucking since 20.
Since 20. How many trucks do you have now?
6.
6 trucks. Bro, you had, and you're always dropping jewelry,
right.
Always giving up game. I love what you're doing. First of all, congratulations on all your success. Everything it's really dope to see a young brother like yourself just flourishing in this game, man. And I'm really excited to talk to you, get to kind of pick your brain, and I think you're gonna bring a lot of value to the audience today, bro.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's get into it. Let's start from the very beginning, man. Like let's talk about it. Tell me about coming up. Let's hear your story, bro.
So basically, how I got started, I was going through life, man. I was doing a bunch of sales jobs, while I was in high school. I remember on my senior year, I would go to school in my Verizon shirt. I used to sell cable. So I would get off at half a day dismissal and go knock on doors selling cable. You know what I mean? So I was just trying to find myself. I kind of learned at an earlier age that I didn't want to do the whole degree thing and things like that, especially after having like sales jobs. I worked with a lot of people that had degrees, but they were, selling cars and knocking on doors with me as well. So I said, you know what, man, I gotta find something, that I can do well in without that degree. So one thing my dad instilled in me at a young age was he said, hey, you don't gotta have that degree, just get you a skill. You know what I mean? If you get you a skill, it'll pay you for the rest of your life without actually having to go to school and take all of that debt, So once he told me about that, it stuck with me. So fast forward a little bit, I was working at an emissions job where, you come in, you get your cars tested, things like that. I was doing that for a little bit. And one thing that the sales background helped me with was was never afraid or shy to walk up to anybody and just strike a random conversation with you. So as I got out of high school and I was trying to find myself, I was working at a missions job, and any brother, that came through, just anybody that looked successful, I never had a problem, just asking, hey man, what do you do? And majority of the people that I spoke to were truck drivers, truck owners, business just in trucking period. I remember I met one guy, he didn't even drive. He just rent his dump trucks out.
Okay.
So I met so many people, was able to network, from that one little job, getting business cards. Hey, when you get your CDL, give me a call. So, once I was working there and I just say, you know what, I'm young. Why not give it a shot? I enjoy driving, so left that job and actually ended up going to a school called Allstate in Baltimore.
Okay.
Went there. I was about 20 years old. So I was fortunate enough to start my CDL journey. Another blessing part about it was while I was going to school for CDL, I ended up working this warehouse job where I was a parts delivery driver, and I was able to grow from that and actually become one of their overnight drivers driving their box truck. So the beauty of that was it kind of helped me get into trucking without the CDL. You know what I mean? So I would do that job going up to Pittsburgh every night, because the biggest thing I always tell people that that reach out to me asking for information is if you're new to trucking, if you've never been in trucking, it's very important that you learn your body. You got to learn, because trucking is very different. It's not like a regular job. You know what I mean? You out late turning up, you know what I mean, and think you're going to come into work. and do a 12, 14-hour shift behind that wheel can be very dangerous.
Right.
So I always recommend to people that's never had a driving job, it's important to learn your body when you get out here, not watching that clock, but actually just learning your body to know when it's time to shut the truck down.
That circadian rhythm, I think they call it.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was doing that while I was in school. I was working at that job, which was really great. You know, at the time I didn't have a CDL, but I was already making CDL money.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that was a blessing for sure. And it was funny because.
And what was that? How much were you making?
$50,000. They paid me $50,000.
Okay. So you're doing that part time? You said
I was doing that full time. That was my full time job.
So you started in the warehouse and then you transitioned into driving.
So I was working. So I was always driving, but I would do like a little route because it was a body parts delivery company. So they sell hoods, fenders, things like that. So I was one of their route drivers at first, and I noticed they had this big yellow straight truck out in the parking lot. I would always see the guy that would drive it. So I would ask him. He would come in as I'm getting off because he worked at night. So I would ask him. I say, "Hey man, where do you go?" He said, "Oh, I go to Pittsburgh every night, but I'm about to give it up though. You know, I'm kind of tired of doing it." So we got to talk a little bit. Told me about how much it pay and things like that. Because one thing, as we know in trucking, you know, from the company driver aspect, you know, one of the ways of how you make your money is with the overtime.
Right.
Because the job didn't pay much. It was about $15 an hour. But that $15 an hour easily turned into $50,000 because of the overtime that you were getting guaranteed every night going up to Pittsburgh and back.
Gotcha.
Yep. So I did that. Once I did that for a little bit, which it really gave me that knowledge, and it gave me, you know, a lot of information as far as while I was driving that box truck, I was also getting my CDL.
Okay.
So I got to learn my body while I was out there. You know, I remember there was a few times actually I had to pull over, you know, didn't get too much sleep the night before. I said, you know what? I remember one time because those, I would do the transfers. That's why they had that box truck go up to to Pittsburgh, to the other location.
Okay.
And do the transfers, pick up the transfers, bring them back to Maryland. So one night I remember I was real tired, man, and I didn't just say, you know what, safety above all. Pulled the truck over. I ended up getting back so late they was waiting on me as I pulled up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, that was the biggest thing that I had to learn, was just learning my body. Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
You said your father, he said learn a skill, you know, that'll feed you for the rest of your life. Was he an entrepreneur as well, or did he work a normal job?
He worked a normal job, just kind of climbed his way up.
Okay.
You know, so maybe just, you know, sometimes, you know, some of the mistakes or some of the things you don't do, sometimes you instill in someone else. You know, so I feel like that's where a little bit of that jewel drop, you know, just from that.
Gotcha.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, like you said, just as skill, you know, find a trade. You know, so many trades that you can do. And I was fortunate enough to take that one job that was literally surrounded by truck drivers. That's why I would always end up talking to them.
Right.
And just learning about the trucking industry, because it's crazy, because, you know, as we're us regular people driving down the road, we see trucks going down the highway all day. But, you know, you really, sometimes, you know, if you don't have that right person to kind of tell you how do you get into it, you know, you'll never find out sometimes.
Right, for sure. And
You know?
prior to this, never a thought of really getting into the industry or nothing like that. Just
Right.
kind of just getting it fresh, and you learn by being in this building, and you just learned around from other people.
Exactly.
Okay, so tell me, continue the story. So you start doing this job, you're making $50,000 a year, doing these transfers back and forth. What happens after that?
So once I ended up getting my CDL, at that time, it was funny. I remember when I was in trucking school, they would always point me out. They would say, "How old are you?"
Right.
You know, because they seen how young I look.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
How old are you? Because I was only 20 at the time.
Okay.
So I would always tell them, I'm 20. However, I'll be 21 by the time I graduate. Because, you know, you can get your CDL at 20. It's just you can't go out of state.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So that was always funny. But once I ended up getting it, you know, I had the decision to make. Do I continue this $50,000 a year job, or do I leave it, you know, and go on and find something else? And one thing that stuck with me even still to this day is I never got to the point where I was complacent, never got to the point where I was afraid to change. You know what I mean? That's what allowed me to, I feel like, get to where I am now. So once I got my CDL, I ended up leaving that straight truck company, and I worked for another company. Never really went over the road while I was a company driver. just ended up taking a different route because the nice thing about the DMV area, it's a lot of local opportunities.
Okay.
You know, that's the beauty of it. I realize, you know, within all of these states, everybody isn't fortunate enough to have a lot of local opportunities that they can, you know, use to their benefit. But we definitely did. So I found out about a food service delivery company that I started doing, and safe to say it it didn't work out.
Okay.
You know, the food service industry, you know, because it's safe to say with the food service industry, you spend way more time in the back of the trailer than driving.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean?
That's a fact. So now you humping freight.
You humping freight, you know. I remember it was so crazy. I never forget. I had a story where I almost had a boo-boo where I was out there delivering to a restaurant. You know, I'm a rookie at the time because that job, it was more so there to teach me how to unload the freight in a timely manner, not teach me how to become a better professional driver.
Okay.
So as I was doing it and I was realizing that, you know, one of the things that led up to that was I was coming around a restaurant one night and I never forget, I was trying to line the trailer up, right? Sometimes you just look at the trailer tires and the curb, try to line it up real perfect.
Right.
So that way you don't got to back up.
Right.
By the grace of God, I was still with my trainer. He was in the passenger seat. He was asleep, man. He was asleep.
Yeah.
But by the grace of God, man, it's like he woke up. He knew that I wasn't, you know, as they say in trucking school, aiming out high enough.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Aim high and steering.
Right.
Yeah.
He knew I wasn't doing that. So he woke up and said, "Stop the truck." I said, "Stop the truck. Stop the truck." So what are you talking about? He said, "What are you doing? Look up. You about to clip the top of the restaurant." Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even see that."
Right. Those
you know
warnings.
what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that example right there alone is why it is important to, you know, if you're starting from that company driver phase, you know, looking to get in trucking, why it's so important to make sure that you get with a company that's going to train you. You know what I mean? Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's your license.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of people got to understand that, you know, it affects the company, but it also affects you. And, you know, nowadays with safety and everything going on, there's so many different ways of how they keep track of your driving records. You don't just have one driving record, you have several. You know what I'm saying? So I was doing that. And then I said, you know what, man? I remember I was sitting in the car with my mom. Well, I was on the phone with my mom. And I was telling her, I said, "Mom, this ain't working out. This ain't working out, Ma." And one thing, you know, about Mom, man, you know, or anybody that's in your life, you know, that's real close to you. When she tell you, you know, sometimes, you know, it's like you get the green light from them. You know, should I go ahead and quit? You know what I'm saying? You know, if it's not working out, go ahead. You know, I got you. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and leave this. You know what I'm saying? I just knew it wasn't working out. So I left that job.
How long were you there?
Man, maybe a month.
Okay.
Maybe a solid month.
And you were 21 at this time now?
21.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, still 21. So I ended up leaving that job, and my next job, where I pretty much spent all of my career company driver-wise, was FedEx. So it was with FedEx Ground. A lot of people, if you don't know how FedEx works, you know, they got a bunch of different divisions. FedEx Ground on the trucking side hires all independent contractors. So even though I was, you know, working for FedEx, I was technically working for an independent contractor. So it was kind of fortunate enough. He ended up being able to get me in, even though I didn't quite have enough experience. He was able to get me in, and that was really where my training and skills just took off, because he spent that extra time with me as far as, you know, me perfecting my craft and driving and things like that.
Okay.
So, you know, I did that for maybe about a solid year when I was working for him. And, you know, one thing about it, you know, sometimes that you don't understand, you know, it's so important how you got to crawl before you can walk, you know. So I remember when I was doing that opportunity, the pay wasn't very high. Right. You know, just like how trucking works, you know, for the most part, you go over the road, things like that, you know, you got to crawl before you can walk. You know, you're not always going to see top dollar right in the beginning. Right. You know what I mean? So I remember we had that conversation as far as pay. You know what I'm saying? I would tell him, said, look, you know, I'm doing a good job. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, as that was going on, I said, you know what, I ended up switching contractors. So I was still under FedEx. But just with another carrier. I was pulling doubles at the time. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. So
pulling doubles.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was nice.
Yeah.
It was definitely nice, because it's one thing about doubles, it's very physical. You know, it's not like a typical drop and hook.
Yeah.
You're hauling 2 trailers.
It's a whole process to even hook those trailers.
Exactly.
Man.
And in between those 2 trailers is the dolly. And what you have to do with the dolly, see, the key to doing doubles is you want to use the truck as much as possible without having to you push that dolly back and forth, because obviously it's a very heavy dolly. So it was good. I love the enjoyment of it. And it just so happened that the contract I was working for probably had the toughest route. So many dropping hooks. You talking about anywhere from 6, 7 dropping hooks a night. Yeah, a lot of running.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I remember I had a crazy story where at the time I had went into a residential neighborhood, and unfortunately it worked out for me. Otherwise, you might have been able to Google me.
What happened?
I ended up going to a residential neighborhood, man, and didn't realize I couldn't make one of the turns. And as I went around the turn, that was when I noticed, it's this. I was in that scene. I knew I messed up because I could look out my passenger window and see my rear trailer.
Right.
So if I can see my rear trailer, where is the first trailer?
Right. 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I saw that trailer lift off the ground, and it was just like, oh snap.
Right.
And so my first instinct was, okay, well, let me go ahead back up a little bit so it can go back down to the ground. So I did that, and obviously I knew I hopped out. I hopped out the truck, and I'm just like, man, only way I'm gonna get out of this is if I drop all of these trailers and hook back up on this road.
Yeah.
Yep.
As you had to do. It is what it is.
Yeah, so I unhooked everything, man, drove everything up the road, and pretty much just got out of there. So that was my first.
You made it happen, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it definitely could have. You would have been able to Google my name.
For sure.
Would have been in some trucking memes.
No doubt.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so what happens after that? Talk to me.
So after that, I ended up deciding to switch contractors, still under FedEx. And one thing about, getting into entrepreneurship, sometimes it can be a little easier for people when you're surrounded by other entrepreneurs. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
So as I was working at FedEx, I worked with a lot of other contractors where they drove their own truck. Even though they owned the route, things like that, they didn't have a driver, and they actually drove their own truck. So that was a lot of inspiration for me, as well as, me having that sales background, just being a people person and just able to walk up to anybody and just try to strike a conversation. So I ended up building a lot of relationships.
Right. They
saw my drive. They saw, all of the things I wanted to accomplish. And they would give me information and just tell me how everything worked, and as time went on and I switched contractors and things like that, just, of course, gaining more experience, things like that, I had told myself, you know what, well, since I'm doing FedEx, maybe I should just try to get a contract with FedEx. So as I got closer to purchasing my first truck, I said, well, one of the guidelines with FedEx is you got to have a white truck. So that was one reason why I actually went out and purchased a white truck.
Okay.
Still working the FedEx job, just thinking, okay, I got my white truck. Let me see if I can, talk to the right people to get my foot in the door. But it's just a blessing sometimes, sometimes you think something, when in life, something doesn't work out, you don't even realize at that time, that there's a bigger blessing for you. Right. You know what I mean? Because I remember I had guys that would tell me, FedEx isn't all of that, man. It's not everything that you think it would be. But of course, not having a lot of knowledge, I'm just thinking, what do you mean? I own a truck, with FedEx, I'm going to make a lot of money.
Right.
Well, there's so many other variables to it. What route you get, that's a big one. If you're going to get a high volume route, I was fortunately working with a contractor who had a very high volume route because it was a lot of miles. You know what I mean? So as I purchased that first truck and I wanted it to be white and ended up grabbing it, it got to the point where I said, you know what? I didn't find no success actually getting a contract with FedEx.
Okay.
So that was once I decided to go ahead and branch off into getting my own, finding another company to work with.
Okay.
But during that process, I hit a bump in the road.
So hold on real fast. So you never ran for FedEx?
No, never ran for FedEx.
So what happened? What stopped you? Why weren't you able to get accepted?
Because sometimes only way to get in is through either buying your way in or getting in through new route opportunities. But a lot of times it can be hard because those new route opportunities most of the time get sought out by people that are already have contracts.
Got you. So in order to buy your way in, what would you be looking like if you had to guess? What would it cost you at that time to buy your way in to get around?
Depending, I mean, if you're just, obviously if you're just buying just someone with one route, on truck, and I've heard numbers going for 50,000 all the way up to about 100,000.
So you're buying from another person who owns the route.
Contractor.
You're not buying directly from FedEx.
Exactly.
So all the routes are already allocated, and you have to work within that network to buy your own route from somebody else. Okay.
Right. So you figure the package, on the package delivery side, they work the same way with FedEx Ground. They have routes and things like that. They get paid a lot of times by the packages or the package counts.
Okay.
And things like that. So, it definitely can be a great opportunity, but unfortunately, at that time it was a little discouraging because I'm just like, man, obviously, when you're in a field, you want to kind of stick to your niche. I was like, I do doubles. I like doubles. I enjoy it. Why not grab a truck, get my own contract, and do it myself? Right. So with that not working out, I kind of hit a bump in the road due to while I was at FedEx, I was driving on my birthday night. One of the biggest things that happened that almost ended my career. So by me running at nighttime, I didn't realize that I've never went through a weigh station, but it was my birthday night. I was out there on a Sunday night. I think it was during peak season. Right. Trying to make some more money.
You in Maryland? You never went through a weigh station before, man?
Because I operate at night.
Oh, okay, got you.
They're closed. Most of the time, at night.
All right, because I was gonna say nothing but weigh stations in Maryland.
Exactly. But
that's what y'all known for.
Right. But operating in that night, you don't. They're all closed.
Got you.
So I wasn't paying attention to it. So keep in mind, as a rookie. So that night it just so happened to be one that was open on 83.
Okay.
Didn't see that it was open. I went past it. As I went past it, I knew something was wrong because once I went past it, I kind of noticed the lights that was flashing and I seen DOT run into his truck. I said, oh man, this can't be good.
It's on, right.
Can't be good. So I said, all right, well, still rookie at the time, real nervous. You think, man, you get pulled over in your car, now I'm getting pulled over in a tractor trailer. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I began looking for a place to pull over. There was no shoulder. So what I did was, which at the time I thought was the best thing to do, I pulled over in the far right exit lane of the weigh station and stopped right there. Once DOT came up to the truck, obviously he told me what I did. Weigh station, I passed it, which I didn't see that it was open. Right. But long story short, he ended up citing me for reckless driving. And, for people who don't know, reckless driving is one of the worst things that you can, when, you got to think the way these companies work, they're judging you by your driver record. They don't know you personally. Correct. So, it's important to make sure you take care of that. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be the most perfect driver, you know what I mean? But according to your driver record, they would never know because it doesn't look like it. So he ended up trying to charge me with reckless driving for trying to do the right thing and pull over. How many times do we go down the road and we see people stop in their car in the middle of the road, because the police lights flash. Right. They're not getting charged with reckless driving. 100%. They're doing the right thing by pulling over. However, I'm sure that the officer is just letting them know, next time, pull safely off the road. You see that I'm a rookie driver, but, that was just definitely something that was could have been detrimental to my CDL, and it did affect me because even though I didn't get charged with it, while I did get that ticket that went on what's called my PSP. Yep. Your PSP report. So as I got my truck and I began looking for companies to lease on to, that showed up. Right. So it really hindered me, you know what I mean? When people immediately, when reckless driving, tractor trailer, we don't want them.
That's like right next to a DUI. Man.
Yeah, exactly. Not realizing the situation, right? Knowing, I wasn't driving recklessly. I just pulled over in the far right exit lane because that wasn't a side, completely off the road. He tried to hit me with that.
Like you said, when they run that PSP, they don't see this whole story. They just see reckless driving.
Exactly. So that's why it's so important to also make sure, any traffic violations, even if you're at fault, taking it to court. Because in PA, I ended up taking that to court, of course. And when I got to court in Pennsylvania, they don't have what's called a PBJ, probation before judgment. You're guilty or you're not guilty. Right. So, but fortunately at the time, when I explained my situation, I went by myself, didn't have a lawyer or anything, just explained the situation, to the officer as well as the judge. And because the officer was present, the very last second before the judge ruled, the officer decided to drop it down to a parking ticket.
Okay.
However, by them dropping it down to a parking ticket, it still affected me because it was still on my PSP.
Right.
And when I went to go to try to do what's called a data queue to get it off the PSP, they wouldn't do it because it was dropped down to a parking ticket. So I never got it off my record. So I was dealing with that while owning my own truck. So I was getting turned down by a lot of these companies.
Right.
One thing I always say about trucking is great because you're gonna always have a job, right? You're always gonna be good. You're always gonna have income coming in. But where the challenge comes in with trucking is it's a million different opportunities. Think about it. By there being so much opportunities out here, why would there be drivers looking for jobs? If everybody was paying top dollar, let's say 6 figures and up, nobody wouldn't be able to find a driver. Right. Why do people change jobs? Better opportunities. So that's one thing I always say about trucking, and as I was going on, dealing with that, just trying to find different opportunities, some of those good opportunities that I knew about from other people, I couldn't get because of that reckless driving.
So at this point, you still have your one truck.
Still have my one truck, but I'm still driving for FedEx.
But you're still driving for FedEx as well.
I'm still looking for a company.
So your truck is just sitting?
Truck is just sitting.
How long was it sitting?
At least probably over a month, probably.
Okay. So in your head at that time, which companies are you looking, who are you reaching out to, trying to get work with?
Reaching out, I was really trying to do a lot of stay local still and do container work.
Okay.
So I was reaching out to a lot of container companies that I knew of.
Okay.
It was all of them. It was pretty much just the same. I ended up not being able to find the first company until it was, just a small mom and pop company off Craigslist.
Okay.
But
and you don't have a trailer at this time either,
no,
right?
No trailer.
Okay,
Yep, no
gotcha.
trailer. And the biggest thing I remember was, at the time when I took my first owner-operator job, I knew it wasn't going to last long. The reason why I knew it wasn't going to last long is because they offered a salary as an owner-operator. And that's one thing that,
that's a no-no.
That's I've never even heard of, company
crazy.
drivers get salaries.
Right.
Not as an owner-operator. So they offered me $2,000 a week as an owner-operator, and they paid for my fuel. Well, where do they pay for your fuel as an owner-operator?
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? It's like a $200 allowance a day where they pay for your fuel. That was my first gig. And, at the time, even though I didn't have experience in trucking, still it was simple numbers. Well, okay, if I'm making about $1,400-1,500 right now working my FedEx job, how in the world am I gonna survive making only another $500 more?
Right.
When I have a $1,500 truck note and a $600 loan that I took out to start my company.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I knew that it wasn't gonna work out long. But however, I took the opportunity really just to kind of go ahead and get my foot out the door, go ahead and start running the truck.
And you didn't have much of an option at that time.
Yeah, didn't have much of an option at all at that time. And it was crazy because I've never went long distance. To that date, I never went over the road. But once I purchased my first truck and got with that company, I was Michigan, Indiana.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, the truck did real well. I just purchased it. It was running real good, so didn't have any more issues. But
what'd you purchase?
It was a 2012 Kenworth T660.
Okay.
Yep, with a Cummins engine.
Gotcha.
Yep,
Nice.
Got it from Truck Enterprises up there in Hagerstown.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but the thing about that too, where when I bought my first truck, the biggest thing, nowadays, the great thing about, so many resources we have that we necessarily didn't have back in 2016. It's so important to educate yourself, before you get into anything. That was one thing I didn't do, because one of the first L's that you would say that I took in trucking with buying my own truck was I took way too much of my capital to purchase my first truck. A lot of people, they always, biggest thing sometimes it can be challenging is we're going throughout our lives trying to save money to start a business. I'm big on, credit and using other people's money, to provide for your dreams and your lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's a saying, there's good debt and bad debt. What's bad debt? Purchasing things like a car, high-end note, things like that. But then, of course, you have good debt, things like taking out a loan that's going to start a business. So now, you're paying interest, but however, your business is making money, so you're able to use the bank's money.
Right. You
know what I mean? So I took out a $25,000 loan. People ask me all the time, that's what started my company, a company called Avant. gave me $25,000. So keep in mind, I was only 21 at the time.
Okay.
You know, felt like I signed a record deal, hit the lottery.
Right.
I remember the first person I called my buddy Mike. You know what I mean? And said, Mike, man, it's $25,000. I got approved for it. I saw the email come through. Yeah. But of course, you never believe it till you see the money in the
Right.
You know what I mean? You're on the phone. I'll believe it when I see the money.
What's the interest rate on this loan?
It was actually pretty good. It wasn't bad. I can't remember the exact numbers, but I know it was probably somewhere maybe around 10.
That's crazy.
That. Yeah.
So, I mean, where'd you find these people?
I can't remember how I found them or if they reached out to me, but it was crazy how it worked. Because when
was this truck specific?
No, just
a regular business loan.
Personal loan.
Okay,
personal loan.
Right.
Yeah, this is a personal loan. Yep. So, you know, they had reached out to me a few times. And at the time, like I remember one time when they reached out to me, they would always ask me, how much are you making?
Right.
So, of course, I'm thinking, you know, got my chest out a little bit.
Right.
So, you know, I'm doing maybe about $2,000 a week, you know. Oh, you know, it did what had to put me back in my humble place was they said, well, we verify your bank, you know, with your pay stubs. I said, well, I have had a little bit of time off.
Recently.
Let me call you back about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Since they're going to look at the last 2 most recent direct deposits. Yeah, right. Exactly. So some time went by. I think they just reached out to me again. And it was crazy because at that time, you know, everything happens for a reason because I know I wouldn't have probably started a trucking company at that time. I know I wasn't really thinking about it. You know what I mean? And as time went on and I finally ended up reaching back out to me and I was, you know, pay was up at the time. So I went through the process. They verified my pay stubs, approved me for the $25,000. Money was in my account the following business day. You know, I was just like, wow. So one of the biggest mistakes I made with that 25 grand by not educating myself and just being in a rush. Sometimes I can be a rushful person. I went out there and took over half of that money to buy a truck. Not realizing I could have went through programs like Loan Mountain, get a truck, $3,000-$4,000 down. Other companies I do business with, Accelerate Leasing, no credit check, $3,000-$4,000 down. You know what I mean? So many other opportunities out there that I could have went with, but I chose to go with that particular truck to the point where I was, you know, I wanted that truck so much I didn't even realize what I was doing at the time by exhausting all of that money, all of my capital. The biggest thing I always tell people is, you know, everybody's situation is different. You know what I mean? If you have money, you come from money, and you want to cash out on your truck, you know, obviously if that's not going to hurt the bank, go for it. But for the average person that's trying to save money, you know what I mean? And things like that. I always recommend, you know, save as much capital as you can because you're going to need it.
Right.
Because the biggest thing about trucking that a lot of people have to understand is, and I always use this analogy, you know your body. We know our body. You know you're going to put the work in if you purchase a truck, right? But what you don't know is you don't know the reliability of that truck. So think about it. If I know I got the hustle, obviously if I can work a 9-to-5 job, someone else's truck, and work my butt off working with that company. If I get my own truck, of course I'm going to put in, you know, just as much effort as I did for another person.
Right.
But what you don't know is the reliability of the truck, because at the end of the day, one thing about trucking, we're relying on the fate of that engine to determine our future. You know what I mean? You got to really think about that. You got to really think about that. It's unlike, trucking is unlike any other business. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I want to start a detailing company, you know what I'm saying? That's just, you know, my pure hustle. I got to put the work in.
Right.
It's not many obstacles I might could face. You know, maybe my machine goes down, things like that. But trucking is unlike any other business.
And there's no way to determine or foreshadow or project when that engine will go out on you.
Right. Of course, you know, you can there's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah.
And, you know, buying a truck from a reputable dealer, you know what I mean? Having a mechanic, you know, so many things you can do to, you know, to try to prevent that. But at the end of the day, when you're purchasing, a lot of people, they get upset sometimes when they purchase a truck from one particular company. And let's say the truck goes down. You know, sometimes to some degree that falls on the dealership. But at the end of the day, you know, you got to remember, hey, I'm purchasing a used truck. This is still a risk. You know, trucks always are going to look good sitting on a lot.
Right.
The owners, you know, the salesmen, they know they got to have the truck show ready, make it look good. But I always say all the time, you can test drive it, you can look at it, it runs fine. But sometimes you really don't know what's going on with that truck until you put a load behind your back.
That's a fact.
And actually, taking 44,000 pounds up the road and seeing how it's performing.
Yeah.
Which I actually know of a company where they actually do that. I believe they're called a Truck Mart up in near Pennsylvania, where they actually have a trailer. I don't know if they still do it, but I remember I pulled up to their lot and they actually have a trailer there that has freight in it or some weight on it
right,
to pull the load, which is really nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For sure. So, that was the biggest thing, at the time, I took that was one of my first L's in the game, as an owner operator, exhausting way too much of my capital early in the game, because you got to think, sometimes your first time buying a truck, it can go down on you within that first week. Right. But you still got to factor in your personal bills, by not getting a check, because as we all know how the saying goes, if those wheels aren't turning, you're not earning. That's a fact. Know what I'm saying?
Let's go back to, because you dropped some jewels earlier about Loan Mountain and also Accelerate. Talk about that. You said about 3,000-4,000 down. So I'm sure people heard that, and they're going to pick that up. So what's the process with working with those? I know you have good relationships with them, especially Accelerate, right?
Right, Accelerate, yeah, for sure. So with Loan Mountain Truck, they're a really good program. They're real big. They run your credit, but they also factor in a lot of other things. I know with them, you don't got to have 100% perfect credit or anything like that. They also are more interested in, your game plan. They're interested in your business plan, what you're looking to do, things like that.
Do you have to present any work, like any contracts, anything to them, or they just want to know what you want to do?
Yeah, they may ask you who you're going to be working with, who you're going to be leased on, and things like that, or whether you're going to get your own authority. That definitely might come up. And then you have Accelerate Leasing. They're a really great program. I was fortunately able to pay off 4 trucks with Accelerate Leasing over the last few years. And the beauty of them is they're 100% no credit check. They don't look at your credit. You get approved with them through other factors of your bank statements. They pretty much want to see money in the bank. They want to see that you can manage money, things like that. Obviously, they don't care about seeing a whole bunch of money in the bank, but they want to see that you have a good enough cushion in that bank. You know what I mean? Before getting approved for a truck with them. Okay. Oh yeah, but I love Accelerate Leasing simply because by it not going on your credit, it doesn't affect certain things, depending on where you are in your life, like purchasing a home, things like that. You don't have to worry about, it showing up on your credit.
So the actual loan doesn't go on your credit?
No, it doesn't go on your credit. If you wanted to report to your business credit, you can let them know and they can
do your FedEx.
Yeah, but it doesn't show it all on your personal credit, which was to me was like, wow.
That's game changing right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. All right, well, this ain't a commercial for Accelerate Leasing, but you're welcome, Accelerate, because I'm sure you're gonna be getting some calls now.
Yeah, shout out to Accelerate for sure. We on my Instagram, we went live. I have a video on there. Okay, it was like over like an hour where I was dropping little jewels with Accelerate Leasing, because obviously I wanted to. They've been a blessing to me, so I wanted to just let everyone know about that, because a lot of people always safe to say, sometimes credit is definitely can what hold a lot of people back. They have the money, just might not have the credit. Yeah. So the nice thing about Accelerate Leasing is there are no credit. And there are a few no credit check programs. I've only done business with Accelerate Leasing, but you also have LRM Leasing. They're actually based out of Florida, where we're at. Okay. Yeah, they have a location out here in Florida, and they're also a no credit check program.
Okay. Yeah. Dope. All right. So y'all got some jewels for free there on how to obtain your first truck. Anything else you want to put out there in terms of things that people should be looking for? You just said don't dump all your money into the truck, right? Don't put all your cash, all your liquid into that truck. Anything else you want to add that people may want to think about in terms of when they're buying their first truck? Because I mean, that's one of the first things that we do, right? As truck owners, buy our first truck. So anything else you want to put?
Just deciding, what route you're going to take as far as, what company you're going to lease under with, or if you're going to get your own authority. That plays a big part in it. That's really what's going to determine your success. Who are you working for? What kind of numbers are you generating? Because I compare the trucking industry to the music industry. For the people who don't know, is people always ask, how do you start as owner operator? How do you find work? Well, look at it like the music industry. The reason why I compare it to the music industry is because there's 2 types of ways you can become an owner operator. Just like it's 2 types of ways to become a rapper. You're either independent you know, got your own record label, as you would call it in the music industry. In trucking, that's called having your own authority, right? You're independent. It's the same thing in a lot of cases. Everything's on you. You know what I mean? Everything's on you. Nobody's going to hold your hand. Everything's on you. You got to set everything up.
Right.
You can have people run under you. You know, people lease under your company. They're owner operators. Same thing in the music industry. They're a rapper. They can work under your company. You sign them a deal.
Right.
Well, and then the other side to it, in trucking, you know, it's called leased on. That's just like signing a record deal. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the beauty of it is leasing on with a company, which is what I recommend to a lot of people, can be a good way to go in the beginning. Think about it. A lot of music artists, they start out that way.
Yeah.
They sign a deal, and later down the line, they go independent.
Right.
Whether they buy out their rights, they buy out their masters. It's the same thing pretty much in trucking, other than having to buy yourself out. You know what I mean? Right. I don't know no deals where you gotta buy yourself out, but it's pretty much kind of the same way. The beauty of taking that leased on route, the red carpet's already laid out for you, because there's companies out there that'll provide you with everything. All you got to do is just get the truck.
Right.
Some companies even provide you with a driver if you're looking for one. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're gonna provide you, some of them with tags. You know, your IFTA stickers, everything, the work. You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of leasing on with a company. They're gonna hold your hand through your owner operator journey. You know what I mean? And from there, you can decide on whether or not, you know, do you want to take the independent route? Because a lot of people, you know, always will sometimes kind of tell you, oh, you want to go independent. Well, there's a lot of people, you know, in trucking that's not independent, that's leased under a company and still making great money. You know what I'm saying? Same thing in the music industry. Why would people sign record deals? A lot of these people that's been in the game for years, you know what I mean? The OGs that's still under a label, that's still making money. Right. Same thing with trucking. You know what I mean? Of course, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it's a little harder with trucking. You know what I'm saying? When you're leasing on with a company, you know what I mean? Finding the right company that's going to allow you to generate some good revenue and actually allow you to grow, you know what I mean? To scale up if you choose to do so. Buy more trucks and things like that. They're going to provide that. But it's just, you know, just a matter of whichever route you want to take. But if you're new, getting in the game, you don't know too much, I always kind of recommend, monies can be maybe a little bit tighter. I always recommend that leased on route. And then later down the line, if you choose to do so, you can always go back, start your own authority. Once you kind of learn the game, see how everything works, you tell yourself, you know what, I can cut the middleman out, and I think I can do pretty well. Right. You would look at then getting your own authority, which is kind of the route that I took. When I first started, obviously, I was leased on for a while. I actually went through about 4 companies leased on. Right. Never went over the road other than that, my first opportunity. That $2,000 salary job. Yeah, right? So that $2,000 opportunity, you know, of course, that didn't last long. I knew I had to.
1 month.
Yeah, around there.
We circling back to there because that's where we started.
Because I was still applying to other opportunities. So I was fortunately able to find one that took me on with that reckless driving still on my PSP. Okay. They put me on like a little probation thing. Okay. You know what I mean? So I ended up taking that route, you know what I mean? And just thought, oh man, I'm finally out of that $2,000 salary. I'm going to be good now. And it was a little better. But one of the things, too, you got to understand in trucking is buying the right equipment for the particular job that you're doing. Because at that time, I was hauling containers. But I actually went out my second truck. After I purchased my first truck, I bought my second truck about 4 or 5 months later. Okay. So I went out, purchased my second truck, which was brand new. So I had a brand new truck hauling containers. You know what I mean? At that time, you know, pulling the weight, and of course, you know, just making sure you purchase the right truck for what you're doing. It's a reason why you see container drivers hauling older trucks, paid off trucks. Right. There's money in it, don't get me wrong, but when you factor in other avenues of trucking, containers is one of the things on the somewhat of the lower side. Right. Don't get me wrong, still a lot of money in it. Just all depends on who you're running for and things like that. You have a lot of people that still do well with containers. But, you know, as I was working with some of these companies, you know, a lot of them, you know, just wasn't the best opportunities is the best way to put it. And I just realized, you know, I know the OGs was looking at me in the port like, man, that guy's in that big, he has no idea.
The ports are crazy, man.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Ports are crazy. Did you have your own chassis or you had?
Nah, I didn't have the own chassis. I was using theirs. I was Yeah, the ports was definitely
That's a whole hustle in
yeah,
itself.
oh man. And then not to mention you're trying to make your money around them closing at a certain time,
Right.
things like
Usually
that.
like 8 to 5, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. And the rail yards is the nice one because I know at least in Maryland at that time the rail yard was 24/7.
Okay.
Rates a little cheaper,
Okay.
but the beauty of it being 24/7, you can go in and out.
Gotcha.
The biggest thing because everything's already on the chassis.
Okay.
Reason why the ports is so long because the boxes are not on the chassis. You know, they're still stacked up inside the port.
Right.
While everybody's waiting. You know what I mean? So I did that for a little bit. I actually went through about 4 container companies.
Okay.
Hauling containers. And then the last one was really great. It was a great opportunity. But I still just decided, you know what, man? I'm ready to just take that leap of faith.
What were you doing, about 2-3 loads a day with the containers? Or?
Yeah, 2, 3, sometimes 4, just depending on where you were going.
Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, but yeah, around 2 to 4.
Okay. And what kind of money were you making pulling containers?
Containers, I was averaging anywhere from realistically 2,500 net to about 3,500 net.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty
like
good.
$350 a load, $300 a load.
Yeah, a lot of the biggest thing, a lot of it's round trip.
Right.
So just depending on where you were going, we didn't go out too far. So yeah, around the 300 range,
okay.
400 range.
Okay.
You do 2-3 loads to get you about $800. And of course, dispatch sometimes it sets you up with a real good day where you make 1,000.
Right.
A little over 1,000.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You got some guys too that'll do the longer stretches. They'll get their 1,000 plus by going out further.
Yeah.
And just coming back. You know what I mean?
I know some companies will have like a shuttle driver pull them.
Yeah, put them to the yard.
Have them stage
like a
for you.
Driver. Yep.
Right.
That plays a big part. Oh yeah. Yeah, they definitely did that. So it was nice, but it was once I decided after that fourth company, I said, you know what, man, I'm just ready to go ahead and become independent. Build my own customers. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready for it. And at that time, I was already 4 trucks in.
4 trucks?
4 trucks while I was still leased on.
Okay, so during this time of with these 4 companies, at what point did you get the second truck?
After about 5 months after I bought my first one, I bought the second.
So you hiring now?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yep.
Got you. All right, go ahead. I'm listening.
Yes.
So you have 4 trucks now. You're done with the containers. You're like, all right, enough of this.
Right.
So you have 4 employees at this time too.
Right. Well, 3.
3.
I was driving.
You're driving one.
Right.
All right, cool. So you're ready to take the leap of faith.
Yeah, ready to take the leap of faith.
Talk to me about the grand old leap of faith, man.
Man, so how I did it was I transitioned myself. I didn't want to bring all of my drivers over because, starting something new, I had no idea how I was going to run. Not to mention the capital needed to insure all of the trucks. Plus, not to mention some insurance companies won't even allow you to bring that many trucks as a new authority.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I started with just myself. I went back over the road, just trying to find lanes and just build lanes after I went over the road. I brought my second truck on. We both were kind of running the road and things like that. And then what kind of woke me up was I just say, you know what, man, this is good. I'm enjoying trucking and things like that. But it's, at that time, it was probably around I want to say 2017. It's almost around my 2-year mark, just putting in grinding, putting in so much work. And it just got to the point where I said, you know what, man, I got to focus more on balance. I'm putting so much time in at work and not as much time in, in my personal life. Sometimes one thing about trucking, if you don't find a way to balance everything, it can really just absorb your life. That's why you hear sometimes some of the guys telling you, the truck stops, oh, my old lady left me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right.
So yeah, I just told myself that, and I said, you know what, man, I gotta see if I can maybe start studying this load board a little more to try to figure out how I can, get home more.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I did it a little bit, and then it got to the point where I would, the biggest thing I always tell people is, when you're getting into the owner-operator, you want to try to focus on building a lane, because some of the most shiny trucks you see going down the road, obviously, they're making money. They're all decked out and everything. Those guys aren't running all over the place. They're running lanes. They're running most of them direct customer freight lanes. You know what I mean? So that's what I knew I had to focus on. So at that time, I said, you know what? Let me try to figure out if I can get home every day. That would be nice. Just like how I was doing containers. Let me try to see if I can figure this out. So I began focusing on trying to get home every day. You know, the load board allows you to do things like post your truck, things like that. You can put in the notes column what you're looking for, as well as searching for loads. You know, I would talk to certain brokers now. Now that I'm focusing on trying to get home every day, I'm talking to brokers and letting them know, you know, hey, you know, how often do you get this lane? Because one thing about the trucking industry, sometimes if you don't open your mouth and say what it is that you're trying to do, you know, you might not never get to that level or get to that level as faster.
Right.
Because you got to think these brokers are talking to hundreds, you know, thousands of carriers. You know what I'm saying? If you don't actually let them know, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Hey, this is what, you know, what I cover. Sometimes you'll miss out on opportunities.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I let them know that, and opportunities came about. I was doing different things. The biggest struggle that I dealt with in the beginning of trying to run local, it was going over my hours.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Doing certain lanes where it was just a long day. You know, one thing about trucking, if you're not doing drop and hook, you're doing live loads, live unloads, you know how time consuming that can be.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it got to the point where I eventually say, you know what, I got to let this account go, let doing this account go, because it's taking up too much of my time, the driver's time, they're going over their hours. I remember I even did things like trying to have 2 drivers, you know, one deliver a bag haul, things like that. So I say, you know what, it's just not working out as far as, you know, doing some of these lanes, but I stuck with it. You know, I let some of that stuff go and just continue to stuck with it. And eventually I got to the point where I am now, where all of my trucks run local. They all run within a 200-mile radius. And I was able to just build that up by studying that load board, because I do understand that not everybody is able to run local. You know, it just depends on, you know, your region, where you live, freight, and things like that. You know what I mean? And you know, just the beauty of it, you know, is just knowing that it's easier to find drivers. You know what I mean? Much, much, much easier, because they're home every day.
Right.
You know, that's a lot of guys, you know, nowadays that's what they like, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so much easier to find drivers. As well as that, less wear and tear on your equipment. You know what I mean? When it comes to your truck breaking down and things like that, oftentimes your truck's not too far away from home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can take it right over to a shop, things like that. You know, just a peace of mind, really, not knowing that I know where my trucks are. They're not going far at all. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of them, some days they stay right in the state, where they don't even leave out of Maryland, you know what I mean, and still generate, you know, a very good day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, that I've developed, you know, and a lot of that took place really just by just networking and just making sure that, you know, you kind of set yourself up and put yourself in position. So one of the things that I did was how, you know, let's talk about how you actually build a local operation.
I was just about to say,
you know what I'm saying?
So
let's
talk about it.
How do you do it? Like I've never told anybody how do you actually do it. You know, I said I was gonna save it for our interview.
Okay.
So the biggest thing with it, right, is how you make money local. This is how you make money local. How you do it is, so I'm gonna compare an over-the-road truck and I'm gonna compare a local truck. So let's say an over-the-road truck picks a load up. Let's say today's Sunday. So let's say an over-the-road truck picks a load up today. He delivers it tomorrow somewhere. That one load pays him, let's say, just go to even them $1,000. Well, how you do that locally is you have to pick a load up that morning, deliver it straight through. Most of the time when you're dealing with local work, the rates are going to be between $400-$500, maybe all the way up to $700-$800. They're a little bit higher right now due to the spot market and everything being a little bit higher. But I'm talking about, you know, before we were going through all of this crisis and rates were just average.
Right.
You know, $500, $600, $700, $800 range. So you pick a load up, deliver that load straight through. Let's say that load pays you $500, right? Once you get empty with that load, let's say that load goes 100 miles, 120 miles. You then grab a backhaul to bring you back home or through the house for another $500, $600. So in comparison, that over-the-road truck is at his delivery. Let's say we're delivering to the same place. He's at his delivery dropping his load off for that $1,200. That next morning, I'm dropping my second load off for that $500 or $600. So the difference in how we did it is I made my money doing 2 loads. See what I'm saying? Versus that one guy making his money just doing one load.
Right.
You know what I mean? And oftentimes how you do it is you're literally going from point A to B and then back to A. But how you got to do it is you have to figure out, it's a lot of variables that go into it when you factor in getting live loaded, live unloaded. That's very time consuming. So one of the things that I built and one of the things that you got to remember that plays a big part is not going to big distribution centers. That's a no-no for a local operation, simply because it's going to take too much of your time. When you're running local, you got to remember you need to be in and out. And it's a lot of things that I've learned, you know, throughout the years that just lets me know whether or not if my truck is going to be in and out. For example, first come, first serve facilities. We deal with a lot of first come, first serve facilities compared to appointment time loads.
Right.
You know, compared to, we also don't do a lot of grocery loads where you're going to the big warehouses because you can't afford to sit on the door, because some days where it doesn't work is you'll deliver that load that morning. So let's talk about the next day. So after we did that $500 load, drop that load off straight through, we got the back haul, let's say for $500.
Right.
So that both trucks are now the delivery. The one over the road truck, he just did his $1,000 load. I did my two $500 loads that equal the same thing.
Right.
But once he gets empty now, what he then needs to do is repeat it again. He needs to run a straight through load and grab a back haul coming back.
Okay.
But some days how you can find yourself not being successful with running local is due to you're not able to get the straight through load off and get the load coming back due to sitting at a delivery or receiver, a shipper for too long. You know what I'm saying? Then not only that, you know, if the area that you live in, you know, doesn't have a lot of loads as well. So one thing you got to remember, and one thing I did was you got to learn to build relationships with certain brokers that have late shippers. See what I'm saying? You got to learn how to build a relationship with brokers where they have late shippers, 24-hour shippers that ship till 9 o'clock, 7 o'clock, because on average, most brokers, you know, when you're booking these loads, shipping and receiving hours is normally always a time somewhere between 8 and 3.
Right.
Facility might not close till 4 or 5. You know what I'm saying? But obviously they don't want to have trucks come in there and tell this, oh, we're here till 5, and 4:55, they got 5 trucks showing up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, but the thing is, when you're dealing with these brokers and you're talking to them, you want to make a list of these late shippers, because you're going to need the late shippers. You're going to need them, because you got to think, obviously, eventually you will get held up at a delivery.
Right.
And let's say I got a straight through load right after that delivery and my back haul is right after there. Well, if all of these facilities are 8 to 3, if I'm only dealing with facilities that operate from a time of around 8 to 3, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, it won't work some days.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It'll work days where you have a great day. You're able to keep moving. You're in and out of facility on average, maybe about an hour, hour and a half. But obviously, it's a fact that you're going to hit a bad shipper or receiver that's going to take a little while. So if you don't have those relationships and have the, a network base where you have late shippers and receivers that'll take you after that 4 and that 5 o'clock range, that's where it can become hard to do.
Gotcha.
So fortunately, after doing it for the last few years, I've built up a lot of repeat business to the point now where I use the load board primarily just to find back hauls.
Gotcha.
When my trucks do go out of state. You know what I mean? And then there's other things that you can do as well sometimes, even if you don't get a straight through load off. Because right now, you can go up one way, let's say about 100 miles, right now with the rates, $700, $800, $900, almost $1,000. And then come back for almost the same thing. You know what I mean? I have a truck right now that goes up for about $730 on about 175 miles. Okay. And then we're getting $1,000 coming back. So even though that truck didn't do a straight through load, it's going to deliver the next day. That still was a $1,700, almost $1,800 turn.
Got you. So how often weekly do you come back empty?
Never really come back empty. Every now and then, the times where I do come back empty is when I need to get a truck back to Maryland to do my local freight. Okay,
so I mean, because this operation sounds dope, but I'm just trying to figure out how are you able to connect the dots to where like because when timing is everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it must have taken you a long time to really build this network to everybody is, you're able to make all these appointment times and be able to come back because you only got 14 hours in a day.
Right. A lot of it is repeat business. So we're doing a lot of the same loads every single day.
Okay.
That's what make it much easier and not a lot on me. Most of the time we have loads that come back to PA that we run on a regular basis, come out of PA. We have loads that a lot of my freight in Maryland stays primarily in Maryland, and then I have another lane that goes up to PA every day.
Okay.
And then I have a customer that I deal with right at that same facility where we get the backhauls from. So that, let's say that PA driver isn't necessarily doing a straight through load after he gets empty. He's just grabbing a load and coming back home. But because the revenue is so high, $1,000 coming back and $700 going up, almost $1,800 in the one round, is why he doesn't necessarily need to do that straight through load after he gets empty.
Okay.
You follow me? And then I have my other Maryland trucks. Sometimes that'll just stay right here in Maryland. I have this one account that I do that's it's kind of crazy. Just knowing how when you put yourself in position, just knowing I used to drive 525 miles every night. It was only paid about $238, about 45 cents a mile. I have this one account that I do that goes less than a mile and pays me $400. And I get three, sometimes I get three of them in a day. Right. So you're talking about making $1,200, within a matter of going, total miles, 6 miles?
Right.
You know what I mean? Mile there, mile back, you know what I mean? For each 2 miles each round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I have another account that I do where it literally goes, my biggest account, we get it every single day, one truck, 7-8 loads every single day. You know what I mean? Every single day, over $250,000 account that's home every single day. We drop a hook with everything. So on that one trailer, we have about most of the time, 4 to 5 trailer pull. So the driver just constantly drops a hook, shipper in and receiver in, just going about 2 miles up the road. So you're talking about generating anywhere from $1,400 to $1,600 a day just off that one local account.
Right. Less
maintenance on the truck. Drivers home every day. Drivers compensated, real well for still being home every day. Because, a lot of times people, to each his own. Sometimes you do got to go over the road to make a little more money.
Right.
But the nice thing about the DMV area, it's a lot of local opportunities where you don't have to necessarily go over the road to generate, some good money.
What type of freight are you delivering?
This general freight. This is all drive-in.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, all drive-in. I don't.
And now you have your own trailers as well.
Right. On trailers.
How many trailers?
8.
8 trailers.
8 trailers.
And how many trucks now?
6.
6. Okay, 6 trucks, 8 trailers.
Yep.
Okay.
So one truck alone is using 4 of those trailers. Okay. Sometimes maybe 5.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. One truck alone is using 4 or 5 because he's dropping and hooking. So he has 2 trailers at one facility, maybe another 2 or 3 trailers at the other facility.
Right.
Yep.
I think just listening to you, man, and you mentioned this, the key to what you've done is just really building relationships.
Right.
Being young in this game, how did you have the confidence and what did you do to kind of build these relationships with these different shippers to where they would trust you with their freight? You know what I mean? Like what were some of the keys and how did you have the confidence to do that?
Just biggest thing with me, I believe, was just the communication. For sure. And you know what I mean? Just a lot of times and just letting them know what it is that we cover. Like I kind of touched on a little earlier, because a lot of times if you don't ask, you don't know what a broker has. And oftentimes when you're moving a load, a broker gets that load. You know what I mean? This isn't most of the time. It's not the first time, when you think of all this product that gets moved, it's not the first time that it's getting moved. It gets moved, whether it's on a regular basis, a weekly basis, every single day, and a lot of that was just talking to the customers, some of them being brokers, some of them being direct shippers, just letting them know, hey, this is what we service. You know what I mean? Because I can't even think of anything that I got without opening my mouth and actually letting them know. As we all know, sometimes opportunity isn't just going to come to you.
That's a fact.
You actually have to communicate and let them know, hey, this is what we do, this is what we service. And, of course, just doing good business for sure, just keeping them updated on the loads, things like that. And I think that really, really, really played a played a good part to doing it, as well as just you got to study that load board.
Right.
Because the load board is, I use that load board.
Okay.
If you know how to work the load board and study it, and you're able to do what I do as far as the local operation, you really can take off. You know what I mean? I mean, there's you talking about some days where, you just get so many local loads as well as other things. You can hit over 2,000 as far as numbers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If I have my one truck do 7-8 loads, drop a hook, that might take about 8 hours. If all the production is on, is ahead of schedule, everything's ready.
Right.
$1,600 off the truck, clear, free and clear within a matter of 8-9 hours. As well as that, then maybe going on off to another customer, grabbing maybe that little $400 load, doing 2 of them. That's $1,800. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that's $14 and $800. That's $2,200. $2,200 in one day.
No doubt.
Yeah.
You said earlier. Talk to me about what type of freight do you say no to? You talked earlier about the shippers. Yeah. What are some other types of freight that you say no to?
Just depending on the commodity.
Okay.
That's some type of freight. Depending on floor loaded, trash. A lot of brokers too. They'll use certain terminologies that you gotta. A lot of times it just takes a little knowledge in the game. Yeah. It's recycled product. It's baled. A lot of times they use that word baled. That means a lot of times you might be picking up some baled trash. It might not be clean, things like that, which, last thing you want to deal with is haul a load. And then now you can't get a reload because your trailer's funky or they left some residue or something in it where the next shipper doesn't feel comfortable loading you. Or you got a lot of times too, the scent is one. You got to think, if you're hauling trash and then brokers will tell you all the time, we need a food grade trailer. You're going to pick up some food. That scent isn't right. They're not going to load you.
Right.
You know what I mean? As well as that, here's another one too. Depending on where you're going, especially like in the wintertime with snow, the facility, sometimes you don't know though. You know what I mean? Facility might be outside. The forklift driver's going in, it could be raining. It might not even be in the winter. It could be raining. Now the trailer's getting wet.
Right.
Now he goes to the next load. They thinking, oh man, you got a leak in your trailer or we can't load you. Because, all that just depends on the commodity. We haul a lot of rolls of paper.
Okay.
Which is the biggest thing with that is the trailer has to be in A1 condition. No nails, no holes, no water, signs of water in it because it's floor loaded rolls of paper. You know what I mean? So a lot of that you got to understand and just know what it is that you haul so that certain commodities, certain loads you can stay away from. As well as that with the local operation, the delivery times. Sometimes you got to know, of course, my driver's hours is this, if the local operation, I have drivers where they start at a set time pretty much every single day. So depending on that appointment time, if it's an appointment time on a load, I might need to know whether or not if I can't take it, if my driver's not going to have enough time to get there on time due to the start time that he starts at every day. Are
you dispatching all your own loads?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you don't have any help?
I do have my help of my cousin.
Okay.
Yeah, he just came on board with me a couple months ago.
How much time do you spend on a load board a day now?
Now I don't pretty much. He does all of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. He definitely does all of that. But beforehand, it wasn't quite much due to me having a lot of relationships built, because that's the thing, in the beginning is so nice to actually be able to move freight sometimes without even having to click on the load board. Repeat business coming to you. I also have moved since we move and carry brokers. They know we move a lot of the same freight. See, a lot of people don't realize, well, it's so much freight that never touches a load board. You know what I mean? So much freight, and because there's already a dedicated carrier running it. It's no need to. Right. And the time where it does touch a load board, simply because something like the truck broke down, maybe the driver called out, maybe the driver's running late today, he's not going to be able to make the pickup, so the broker has to recover it. Right. A lot of my freight, that we do never ever touches a load board because, we cover it on a consistent basis. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you don't do any OTR anymore?
No OTR anymore. I was doing that solely in the beginning. Once I figured out how the local operation worked and the fortune of being able to do it, in my area, it was just like, this is a no-brainer.
Gotcha.
The perfect way to balance, what I mean? And of course, nothing's
have that
wrong
quality
with,
of life.
Right. And of course, nothing's wrong, of course, with going over the road. And at the end of the day, of course, the over the road money is for sure a lot more. I know especially right now, you got some over the road trucks hitting that $10,000, $10,000 number. But on average, the nice thing about the local operation, this is a big one that I'll give you as well. One thing about local, by the lows only paying $400, $500, $600, when the market crashes, when we was dealing with that whole situation, drivers was going down DC and they were striking and things like that. The nice thing about the local operation, by there not being a lot of money in the load, it's only so much the load can go down. You follow me? Think of a $1,000, 1,000-mile load paying $4,000, $4 a mile. That is a lot of room if the rate ever dropped. That same $4,000 load could easily drop $2,500, at one point in time and only pay $1,500.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when you factor in a local operation, running loads for $400, $500, $600, $700,
not enough wiggle room.
It's, of course, rates would drop,
Yeah.
but you're only talking about maybe, let's say if I'm averaging $1,200, $1,300, and due to the market, I might be down $200, $300. I'm still over that 1,000.
Right.
And then when you factor in, I'm still doing less miles. So my mile, you know what I mean? My rate per mile ratio is still $3, $4, still hitting that number. It's still way over $2 a mile.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What has been your formula for scaling your company? When do you know it's time to purchase new equipment? How do you look at that?
Just as far as how my customer freight goes, if I'm giving way more loads back on a consistent basis, I know that's when it's time to go ahead and look at purchasing another truck. The customers, but right now where I have it set up, I have 6 trucks, but I run 4 of them. I have 1 as a spare. Pretty much the way it's set up right now is I'm pretty much booked. Like, I don't, like, if there was a new customer right now that wanted to offer me some business, I would absolutely have to purchase another truck, because all of my consistent customers that I work with, direct shippers and brokers, keeps all of my trucks pretty much booked. Every once in a while, I might sneak in an extra load that we might not cover on a daily basis.
Right.
Because the beauty of the local operation is, like what I was saying, a lot of loads that we do on a weekly basis, they move every single week.
Okay.
And I was just fortunately able enough to piece it together so that to make it everything work. Okay, on Mondays, I know I have a mail load I got to cover. On Tuesdays, I know I have this I have to cover. Wednesdays, I have this. We have a Richmond load that normally always comes through on Wednesdays. Thursdays, I know I have a Hazleton load as well as an Oaks, PA. You know what I mean? It's to the point now where it's just so much weekly repeat business.
Right.
The biggest thing I know when it's time to purchase another truck is when I'm having to tell my customers I can't do it. I don't got the capacity. So now I know, if it's just a lot of times, sometimes it might happen one time.
Right.
Certain lanes, brokers, I had a broker offer me the other day a Jersey lane. We don't run much of Jersey.
Okay.
But most of the time, every now and then a broker or a customer of mine to get an extra load. I don't have a problem giving it back. But when you're talking about every single day having to give freight back that I can't cover,
right,
that's when I know, okay, it's time to go ahead and purchase something else.
Got you. So you have these customers kind of running in unison right now. What happens if one of those customers fall out?
As far as if they fall, if they don't have a load,
they don't have loads for you, or something happens with that particular shipper. Are you always looking ahead? Like, how can I replace this customer if I needed to? Like, do you think about that?
Yeah.
Because you have a perfect,
Right.
everybody's harmonious now.
Right. Oh yeah.
So how do you think about that? Like, moving forward, looking ahead.
Just as far as still studying that load board, knowing that there's still so much other freight that's still on that board. Most of the time, it's not like what I'm doing, it's not a lot of other opportunity that is out there, because there is a lot of other opportunities that I do turn away, on a weekly basis, just more so due to, I'm not too fond of running that area, running that lane.
Right.
I choose to stay away from it. But, the nice thing about it is still, just using that load board. If something like that happens, which every now and then, I'll give you a perfect example of something like what you just said. Let's say I'm used to running a Richmond lane on a certain day. Maybe this particular week, the load is going to go out LTL.
Right.
They don't need a full truckload.
Right.
Or in that case, I call my cousin up. He hops on the board. and he finds another load. Typically, we're always able to find other loads, which just lets you know the truck ratio. You know what I mean? It's way more loads still, even with my local operation, still way more loads on that board still, because days where we have loads that cancel, we're still able to find stuff.
Got you. Why do you think traditionally people choose to look OTR as opposed to look locally like you did?
I feel like, for one, as far as money wise, you know, when you're thinking about revenue, it's definitely more money, can be more lucrative taking that over the road route. A lot of drivers enjoy over the road. And a lot of times too, you know, like what I thought, when you think of local, you kind of think, man, I gotta have a contract.
Right.
I gotta have some kind of contract in order to keep my truck home every single day. You know what I mean? But a lot of times, especially when it comes to the business owner aspect of it, it's of course, way more money over the road. You know what I mean? But for me, it's more so the peace of mind. The money is still great. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, shout out to all the over the road drivers, over the road companies, because we're always going to need them when you factor in, you know, me just taking my little short haul mile trip.
Yeah.
And then eventually it's still going on to that long haul. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I just enjoy the peace of mind of knowing that, hey, my trucks don't go too far. So some of the headaches sometimes, you know, that an over the road operation might hit, truck going down, putting the driver in the shop, truck getting towed, don't know much about the facility that the truck is going to. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't know the relationship there, don't know how well they work on trucks. A lot of that, a little bit of a headache I kind of avoid by keeping that local operation.
Got you. How about as far as recruiting drivers? Do you have any issues with recruiting at all?
Not at all. I've been very blessed with that. Just due to when I first started, I had my buddy, shout out to Paul. He helped me build my company.
Okay.
He helped me find drivers as well, because when I first got started, we talked about, you know, us working together way before I even purchased the truck.
Okay.
So he would always, you know, refer a lot of his drivers to me. A lot of his homies, I would say.
Okay.
A lot of his homies that was in trucking.
Yeah.
He referred a lot of them to me as well. So that had a big, major part, you know, and then from there, of course, other people coming on board, and it's, to this day, I've never had to really put an ad out for a driver.
Really?
Never.
So it's been all word of mouth.
All word of mouth. You know, it's to the point where I get people hit me up almost sometimes literally on a weekly basis asking me, is my company hiring?
Got you.
You know, just due to, you know, because like I said, the nice thing about the DMV, people know that there's a lot of local opportunity, you know, and then one thing as far as pay, you know, the pay is very, very, very competitive, you know, for what the drivers are doing home every single day.
Right.
When you factor in, you know, the drivers know, and then a lot of it has to do with me being a driver, because I was never even paid, you know, what I paid my drivers as a company driver. You know what I'm saying? And I was running way more miles,
Gotcha.
525 miles. I don't have that one truck that does that, you know.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? So
Gotcha.
a lot of that has to do with, you know, with pay, for sure, and just, you know, just the local operation. And one thing, you know, that I know that they take pride in, and they see that, you know, as far as just giving out the information, they know a lot of times them working with me, they can kind of see things on a first-hand basis. One thing I also do too is, even though my drivers are paid salary, I actually still send them the rate con. I let them see what it pays. That way, if they ever want to decide that, you know, and of course you gotta be careful with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because oftentimes, you know, somebody can easily underbid you.
For sure.
Yeah, you know, so that is something that, of course, you do have to be careful with. But for the most part, I actually send them the confirmation.
What made you give that level of transparency? What made you even think about doing that?
Just as far as, you know, because I know, you know, they see me and they see that, you know, me being the position I'm at, and just to kind of let them see. Because one thing about me, I'm not the type of person to want to hold anybody back, even though I might have a good opportunity going on, things like that. If they want to branch off and do their own thing, at least they can see, oh, how much is this truck actually making a week?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that if they want to even, you know, actually take that route and go ahead. But even though I do that, I have never had an issue as far as like a driver trying to, you know, use the, look at the money and, try to, so I,
Undercut
teach
you,
his
do
own.
something crazy.
Yeah, teach his own.
Right.
I know a lot of people as far as business wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? But for me, and a lot of it has to do with having a little bit of a personal relationship with the drivers.
Yeah.
Obviously if you're hiring Joe off Craigslist or Indeed or something like that, you got to be a little cautious. But a lot of it has to do with the personal relationship that I do have with the drivers.
No, I think that's dope. I mean, especially like you said, being in your position, being young. I mean, in our community, sometimes people tend to pocket watch.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean? They see what you're doing. They may not know about other investments you have, other ways that you're making money, and they may look like, man, this guy's building this lifestyle off of my back. You know what I mean? Yeah. So by providing that level of transparency, it's like, nah, bro, I only make this.
Right.
I got to make something.
Exactly. and the thing about it too is, I still drive. You know what I mean? I'm not 100% out the seat. Because the biggest thing about it with running a local operation, I could say, when you have a CDL, sometimes it's hard to be 100% out the seat. I'll give you a perfect example. The other day, I wasn't driving that day. And I was sitting at home. Finally, it just got back in after running the errand. I wanted to say, I'm a little tired. I'm going to go ahead and take me a nap. My phone vibrates. I look at my phone. Customer just text me, hey, I got a load, regular load we do 2 miles up the street at the shipper going 10 miles down the road. This is an extra load though. We don't normally cover it on this day.
Right.
Well, what do? Do I want to give my load away to someone else?
Yeah.
And I'm the main carrier. They always reach out to me. Do I want to risk another carrier coming in there? When I know I'm capable, I'm sitting home, when I can actually, fire up my truck and go run this load. So a lot of times that's how I end up working, is when I get overbooked sometimes by an extra truck sitting and I'm just home dispatching, paperwork, whatever the case may be.
Right.
I say, you know what? Yeah, I'll take it. Go ahead, hop in the truck. So that's one thing too I can say about the local operation. Sometimes it's 100% hard to be out the seat 100%.
Gotcha.
When you get overbooked with freight and just like I said, sometimes the driver gets hung up. You know what I mean? He can't do something because he's getting a little hung up and need to start at a certain time the next day. I might take one of those loads off of him because I'll do it myself.
Got you. What would have been some of the biggest challenges becoming an entrepreneur, especially being a young entrepreneur? What have been some of the things that have kept you up at night? Some of the struggles? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Just, not making enough revenue and still having those expenses of the truck going down. When I first got started, doing the leased on side, but hauling containers, that was the biggest thing, the overhead that I had. Because like I said, nobody really goes out and purchase a brand spanking new truck to haul containers really with, at least not at the position that I was in when you look at number wise. Because there are a lot of opportunities hauling containers that make a lot of sense where you might want to get a brand new truck. Obviously your numbers are where they need to be. But for my numbers with the company that I was leased under, just wasn't a good business decision, to purchase that brand new truck. I also remember, during a lot of that time, just all of the overhead, because I had weekly truck notes. Companies like Accelerate Leasing we talked about earlier, that's a weekly truck note. Yeah. And it was, it's good. You don't have that one big lump sum like Lone Mountain. You got a monthly truck note. So, it definitely can be good. But I know with the weekly truck note, I had so many trucks payments that was coming out at that time. It was to the point where my truck notes was literally almost $10,000 a month. So just dealing with that overhead and not making the money that I needed to make at the time, you know what I'm saying, leased under those companies, that was one of my biggest. And then I did also take a little bit of an L by paying the drivers 50% on certain loads, when it turned out to be actually more than 50% that I was giving them. That played a little part in it as well too.
What do you mean? You were paying them 50%, but what do you mean you were paying them more than 50%?
Because the way I structured it, as far as a lot of times the pay, it's a lot of times I was breaking down the pay, but I wasn't quite.
You were factoring in all your expenses.
Yeah, well, no, I would factor in. It was still 50%, of the net, but just as far as a lot of the breakdown of it, as far as a lot of the extra things that I was paying for. There were certain runs, that I might give a set salary for that day, there would be certain things like, for example, we'll get paid on a load, hauling containers going up and paid on the empty coming back.
Okay.
So, for example, drivers, back then in that time, they could make some days $400 or $500 that I would just give them a flat rate of. When truthfully be told, the true breakdown on those numbers wasn't quite that high. So I dealt with a lot of that a little bit as well, but of course still being a man of my word, is still, honored, and gave that to him at the end of the week. And then sometimes, got to the point just to keep a driver. When I was hauling containers, I would give them like a set salary, and that set salary didn't quite equal to 50%, might have been a little over 55, closer to 60,
right?
Things like that, But I knew that, okay, this is what you say you needed. I'm going to do my best to give you that. You know what I'm saying? So that definitely played a big part.
Did you ever have any mentors, any guidance, any help in the trucking game, man? It seems like you've been doing a lot of this and building on your own.
Yeah, a lot of it pretty much was building on my own. I had a few guys, that did give me some mentorship as well. Definitely had a few. It was funny. One particular guy, my buddy Devin, he was one of the mentors that I met, that meant as far as me when I was working at a missions job and the truck drivers coming through.
Yeah.
He was one of them that came through, had a very nice car. I asked him what he do. He's in trucking. Fast forward maybe about 4 years later, I ended up running into him at a truck stop, no idea, and realized like, man, you were the guy that motivated me to get into this. In terms of find out, it's crazy how it worked. Now I ended up motivating him because even though we both were owner operators, he only had one truck. At the time, I still had 4 or 3, maybe about 3.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I motivated him now to start a fleet.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Now he has almost just as much trucks as me.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? So that he was definitely one of the few people that definitely gave me a lot of mentorship.
So someone who has an operation right now, they're OTR, they have some trucks over the road, and they're listening to this interview and they wanted to transition into a local operation. What would you tell them would be the first couple of steps or the first things they should start doing?
Start doing research on a load board for sure.
Okay.
More than anything, look at that load board. Even if your trucks are still over the road, look at that load board to see if it's even possible for you to do so. Look at where your trucks are based out of. Search, well, here's a good way of how I do it. Let's say if I'm based out of Baltimore, Maryland, I'll then take the origin, Baltimore, Maryland, leave the destination as blank. Search on the load board and then filter by looking for the shortest trip. That's one way to do it. But when you type in Baltimore, Maryland, you want to make sure that you put the range within 100 miles so you can see all those within 100 miles. Leave the destination on anywhere. Search. It's obviously going to pull up a whole lot of loads. And then you filter it by the shortest trip. That's one way to do it, because you got to be careful when you're running local when it comes to the range. Because if I only keep it at 50 miles range within the origin, there could be a load that's picked up 51 miles. I'll never see it.
100%.
Never see it.
100%. What are some other factors that come into play when they're looking at that load board?
Just as far as they're looking at it, man, just making sure that, they keep that distance to know whether or not, all right, so if they're looking at it and they see a load that might pick up from a certain, amount of time, making sure that they can get a load coming back.
Okay.
Because that's another thing that you got to look at. If you got a truck that's going 100 miles, let's say you find a load that's paying pretty well, because oftentimes if you're going 150 miles out, the chances of that rate being $1,000, enough money for you to go out and really come back empty, sometimes can be kind of slim to none.
Right.
At least getting on a regular basis. If it's 3-4 o'clock and you looking on a load board, we all know, of course, sometimes rates go up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But who wants to take that risk?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to also look at as well the loads coming back out of that area as well. And sometimes too, even if you're not able to do home every day, I also know a lot of people as well, company drivers, owner operators speaking, some just one man owner operator, some with a fleet where their drivers still get home majority of the time every day.
Yeah.
Because at first when I started my operation, that's what I would tell the drivers. You're home every day. Every once in a while, you might got to do a layover that I'll pay you for. But turns out I literally probably, after being in business, running local at least for the last 3 years, I might have had one driver, 2 drivers do a layover.
Got you.
under 5. You know what I'm saying? So it's very extremely rare. You know, for the driver to have to do that, and a lot of that is just by us going to the same facilities. We know how they operate. You know, sometimes, you know, I always say all the time, it can be challenging when you go in blindsided. You don't know nothing about the facility. You don't know how long you're gonna be there, because that was one of the things, you know, I dealt with when I was, you know, learning how the local operation worked. You know, taking some L's sometimes due to sometimes drivers going over their hours, having to pull, you know, that 16-hour short haul exemption. You know what I mean? Because you're dealing with some of these shippers and receivers, and you keep a list. Some of the bad ones, I know a lot of in my area. It's to the point now where, because I've been doing it for so while, a lot of times I can look on a board and tell you, oh, that's water, that's paper, you know, this is trash, because the brokers are moving these same loads.
Right.
And I can look at the city where it's picking up, where it's going to, and I can tell you, you know, exactly sometimes, you know, what that is. So as you continue to do it, you'll know the same thing. Okay, all these loads are coming out of Baltimore, all these different lanes. I know what shipper this is.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Got you. Are there any differences, rate per mile local than rate per mile OTR?
Yeah, for sure. Because, you know, you got to factor in local stuff, you know, is always going to have, you know, necessarily like a higher rate. And I'll give you a perfect example. There are some times where, you know, you could get a load, let's say going 200 miles for $1,000. That's $5 a mile.
Right.
What's the chances of you getting, you know, of course it happens, but what's the chances of you getting, let's say, a 1,500 mile load for $5 a mile?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it definitely, you know, locally, you know, is one of the benefits to it, because running local, brokers know that, you know, customers know that the rate per mile is always higher. But how you make it work, you know what I mean, is just like what we had talked about earlier, just grabbing that load, running it straight through, grab that backhaul, coming back, deliver it the next morning. Once you deliver it next morning, you want to have a load going out already booked that's going to run straight through again and bring a load back again. Every once in a while, some days you might not get that straight through load off, but that's okay. Especially if you're averaging over 1,000 plus. Let's say I'm averaging over 1,000 plus, and let's say on Wednesday I get a load that delivers. I got held up at the delivery that morning for, let's say, 4 hours. So now I can't get a straight through load, or I got to cancel my straight through load. I can only get a backhaul going back. Or let's say that same load that I did have booked, I still grab it, but I don't run it straight through. Right. Because they're closed. That's going to happen. Yeah. If you're running local, it's going to happen. You're not always going to do the local formula that I use of getting empty in the morning, because you're always going to want to hold the load. Because the thing about it is that I've realized is, which makes it a lot of people got to understand as far as a local operation, you're not going to get your loads off the same day. You're not going to, most of the time, you know, it's going to be hard to run 2 straight through loads the same day. You know what I mean? Dealing with these 8 to 3 and 8 to 4 shippers. And the thing is, you get the first load off, grab the backhaul, come back the next day, deliver another straight through load. So you're always, most of the time, going to want to end your revenue the previous, you know, the previous day, the following morning. Right. If I'm getting empty 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, I still got a whole day.
And then you got you have a fresh clock to start and pick up your next one.
Right. And then you get to the point. Sometimes, you know, you get fortunate enough, like how I've been, where you end up finding certain loads that literally go right up the street. And the broker might have 3 or 4 of them. They're willing to pay you $300 to move 3 loads that are fairly quick. You know what I mean? Or $400, because you do want to be careful with that as well, as far as the minimum that you're willing to take a load for running local, because there are some loads out there I know for sure that brokers might want to pay you $200, $250, $300. $300 is a little too low in my opinion, because you got to remember the time you're going to spend getting live on over $300 for a drop and hook, not going no more than maybe 30 miles. Right. Okay. Right. But a lot of brokers, they look at just the mile sometimes, but they also got to factor in it's the time. You know, this load is only going 10 miles, but it's the time. It could potentially, you know, you're going to take losses sometimes with doing the local operations, you know, especially in the beginning, you know, because it could take all day sometimes, or half of your day. You pick a load up at 8 o'clock in the morning for $300, right? Deliver it straight through. You know, let's say they take 2 hours to get you loaded. You get there 10:30, 11 o'clock. Then they take another 3-4 hours to get you, three hours to get you unloaded. That $300 load that I picked up at 7 a.m., I'm not getting done with it until 1, 2 o'clock.
Right.
It's a little too long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you want to be careful with the minimum you're willing to take your loads for locally. I keep my numbers around 400. Minimum $400.
Gotcha.
Try to keep for a live load, which is pretty much all we're doing. Live loads, live unloads, minimum $400.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the future of Phillips Transport, man. Where are you going with the company? What do you see in the next couple of years?
I see me transitioning into, looking into getting into a fair lease purchase opportunity. So
Okay.
I feel like pretty much what I'm going to be doing with my drivers as well as the ones that's interested is starting up an operation where, you drive for me for a certain amount of time. And then you eventually move on to the next phase, which is getting your own truck. For the ones that are needing help to the point where you can either get your own truck through me, get your own truck through yourself, lease under my company for a little bit, learn the game. Obviously, safe to say, you do have owner operators that don't see the rate cons.
Right.
My company drivers are seeing them, so of course there would be no issue. These owner operators, seeing the rate cons, so you can see what the numbers are really paying, and just doing that with my company guys, because the beauty of that is, sometimes when you hire some of these owner operators, of course there's a lot of great ones out there, but a lot of people got to understand when you are leased under a company, you're still under that company's, guidelines. Even though you're a business owner,
right?
I'm a business owner. You still got to understand that, hey, you're running under my DOT. You know what I'm saying? So the communication has to be there. You're dealing with my customers. The communication has to be there. A lot of people sometimes get in that mindset of just thinking, oh, because you're a business owner, you can necessarily do what you want.
Right.
So the beauty of one of the reasons why I'm going to be doing a lease purchase opportunity only with my company drivers is because we've already have a relationship built. There's no really need for me to go out and seek outside. So how the transition works, I take one driver, he hops in his own truck, whether it's purchased from me or it's purchased from him. And then I hire another driver, somebody that's been waiting to maybe do some work with me, hire another driver, put them in my company truck. So it's just a transition.
Gotcha.
That keeps, running around, as well as, just growing the Interstate Hustlers brand.
I was definitely going to get to that. That's actually a dope concept. So basically you're creating like an incubator to where people would come in through you and then they can eventually come out of that and have their own company.
Right.
Creating opportunities for others.
Oh, yeah.
Since you just now touched on it, Interstate Hustlers, we can't not talk about that. What is Interstate Hustlers? Tell me about that. How that whole concept came about. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I seen a buddy of mine, years ago. He, would call himself, he had it tatted on, has a tat and everything. My buddy Davon called himself Interstate Hustler. I said, man, that's dope. I like that name, Interstate Hustler. And this was back when I was driving for FedEx. He was the Interstate Hustler. I said, that's a cool name. So what I did was I said, you know what? If I put an S on it, Interstate Hustlers, you know what I'm saying? And actually build, brothers together, bring people together just under that name. Back in the day, there was a Zello app, like the walkie-talkie app. We would all hop on there at night. I had it, Interstate Hustlers. Guys would hop on there. We was all running night, keep each other up at night, talking on the walkie-talkie app, joking around, having a ball. That was like 7 years ago. And it pretty much just started from there, just taking that name, and just wanting to build, just a platform with it amongst other drivers. You know what I mean? When people see that name, they know Interstate Hustle. They think of us truckers. That's the main reason, where I wanted to go was just thinking of, man, Interstate Hustlers. What is that? We doing a little bit of clothing and things like that. So it's like when they see it, man, those are truck drivers. Interstate, not what you typically thinking of. Interstate Hustler. You know what I mean? No, we're truck drivers.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I see that, we're already doing the 2 events every year, the Interstate Hustler Cookout, which will be the first annual one coming up this July. And then we also have the first annual Interstate Hustler Ball. Because I seen people, like Slim Thug, his is Boss Life. They have the Boss Life Ball.
Right.
I say, you know what, man? Us truckers, we already don't get enough recognition anyway.
That's a fact.
I say, you know what, man? If I could start something that eventually will grow to being something real big where everybody in trucking is thinking, man, you going to Interstate Hustlers ball this year?
Right.
You know, just a day, a night to everybody come out like the first one we had. Everybody came out, you know what I mean, dressed up, looking good. You know, the cars looking good. Everybody had exotic, nice cars, you know what I'm saying, outside. Good time, you know, for you to come out, you and your date, you and your lady, and just have a ball. You know what I'm saying? We all get together, you know, perfect time, December, you know, getting through another year, you know what I'm saying, another successful year in trucking, and everybody just come out and have a good time. And then you have the cookout that's more so for family oriented. It should be the first annual one we're doing this year. You know, everybody come out, may have 1 or 2 trucks on site, you know what I'm saying, take some pictures, do some family games, and just everybody have a good time, you know, as far as just, you know, as a family, man.
No doubt. And you also have the clothing line as well.
So
that's something I see bubbling. I see a lot of people supporting the clothing line, which is really dope. And I mean, it's a lot of guys out there online, man. I see really repping this Interstate Hustlers brand.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. So it's dope, man. And I love the fact, you know, how you're bringing people together and just really shedding light on the industry. Because like you said, you're turning a word that may have been typically taken as, you know, one way, but you're making it something positive. And like you said, truckers especially don't get the love and you know, it's a very thankless business. I say it all the time. You know what I mean? You're only good as your last load, and a lot of times we're underappreciated. You know, I'm not we, because I'm not a driver, but y'all are underappreciated. So it's dope for you to do something like that.
Absolutely.
And that's really dope, man. I think we about to wrap it up, man. I think this has been dope. We definitely, before we go, we got to get your final thought, and then make sure you let everybody know, you know, where they can reach out to you, connect with you directly. But let's get with that final thought, man. You've been dropping jewels all episode. Give the Hustle fam one more thing for them to take with them, man.
Just as far as, man, my biggest thing is just, like I said, the biggest thing that I've did, you know, starting off, just educate yourself. The beauty of it now is, you know, there's so many people, you know what I mean, in the trucking industry that we all know of that you can reach out to. Take, you know, when people come to me for advice, I give advice. However, you know, if you're at that point where you're, you know, don't know, you know, I would say almost anything, you're just starting to get in trucking, I recommend taking a course from somebody. You know what I'm saying? So that you can properly educate yourself, because it's crazy, you know, even, you know, let's just say a simple $1,000 or $2,000 course, you know what I mean, investing in that course, you're talking to somebody firsthand that could tell you it will literally could save your company. You know what I'm saying? It's so important to invest, you know what I mean, in that education, you know what I mean, before you actually hop out here and start any business. That's one of the most important, biggest things that I've learned, and just not rushing it. You know what I'm saying? Not rushing it. Taking your time, making sure you educate yourself. You know what I mean? And the last thing would just be, never, ever be afraid of change. Don't get so complacent. You know what I'm saying? Never, ever be afraid of change, because you never know later down the line, any business you start, what obstacles you're going to face. You know what I'm saying? And just taking that risk, man, you know, taking that risk. Sometimes, you know, it can get hard, of course, just like anything else. I feel like almost every entrepreneur that's successful has at some point in time thought about quitting, thought about giving up, you know what I'm saying? But they say, you know what, man, we all, you know, we're human. We all go through it. You know, nobody necessarily hits the ground running. You know, if you're getting something at least new for the first time, you know, at all of these courses now that you can take for trucking and other avenues, you know, it kind of helps you so you can hit that ground running, you know, for sure. But, you know, just seeing it through, man. You know, as we all know, you know, as a great Nipsey Hussle said, it's a marathon.
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying? It's a marathon. So that's absolutely what I would say.
No doubt, man. 28 years old, 6 years in business. You're already a vet in the game. It's amazing what you've done, brother, and I really want to salute you, man. You're a shining light and an example for people coming up. I mean, you literally got in the game at 21, started your business at 22, and, you know, 6 years down the line, you're successful, and you carved out a niche for yourself that is not like most. You know what I mean? You know, when we first connected, I told you, I'm like, you're a unicorn, man. You have a local operation. Like, how are you able to build that? And that's dope. And I want people, you know, a big thing about this show is, like, you know, people to look at things from different perspectives and learn different ways. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. Absolutely. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So thank you so much for bringing that and shedding light on, you know, creating these local operations and showing another opportunity for truck owners out there, man.
Absolutely. No
for sure. So let everybody know where they can connect with you. Interstate Hustlers, B. Phillips. Let them know the socials.
Yeah. So it's Interstate Hustlers. You type in Interstate Hustlers on Instagram, we'll pop right up. No underscores or anything like that. And then my Instagram is B. Phillips with 3 L's for the B Phillips. That'll bring up on my page as well. And like I always say, me personally, I don't sell any courses or anything like that. I'm known, you'll see on my page, I have a lot of information on my page. I'm just known for giving free game. That's my lane. That's what I like to stay in. I have the clothing and things like that for people that want to support me and things like that we do. But you'll see just by going through my page, just a lot of information that you can, that's accessible. That's right there on the page, doing interviews with other people, as well as just dropping short little videos as well.
No doubt, and I could definitely attest to that. You definitely give tons of free game.
Oh,
Brock, appreciate you, brother.
No problem.
Thank you so much. This has been dope. Hustle fam, you know how we do it about this time. If you smell something burning, it's only a desire, and we are